Good morning, everyone.
Good morning,
morning,
Rabbi.
Rabbi.
Oh, good morning, Rabbi.
Nice to be back. Huh? Okay. We're learning Mishnayos Tanis, Perek Dalet, Chapter 4, Mishnah Hey, Mishnah 5. Okay, so we mentioned in the previous Mishnah the carbon eitzim, the wood carbon, that when the families that would donate wood would bring a carbon that day. So now the Mishnah Hey is going to elaborate on that, going to explain what that's about. Zaman Atzeh Karnim V'Ha'am Tisha. There are 9 times a year for the wood of the Kohanim and the nation, meaning the wood that was donated by families of Kohanim and families of the Jewish people. Now, what's the background here about this donating the wood? So the explanation brought down by the Bartanur, and I'll read it to you here from the notes. When the Jews returned to Eretz Yisrael from the Babylonian exile, they did not find wood in the chamber in the temple where it was usually stored. Some families stepped forward and donated wood. To reward their generosity, the prophets of that time gave them the honor of donating wood every year on the anniversary of their first donation, even if the temple had a full supply of wood at that time. Each family brought an ola offering, called the wood offering, on the day that they brought their donation. They celebrated the day as a festival. So that's the background. And now the Mishnah is telling us the dates when they were brought and who brought them. So here we go. Be'echad ben Nisan, on the first of Nisan, B'nei Arach ben Yehuda, the children are the descendants of Arach, the son of Yehuda, meaning from the tribe of Yehuda. They were the ones who brought. So we're talking about that the cycle started Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the first family was the descendants of Arach ben Yehuda. Basran b'Tammuz, on the 20th of Tammuz, B'nei David ben Yehuda. It was a family called, actually I shouldn't say that. Explained, B'nei David means descendants of David, descendants of David HaMelech, who was a descendant of Yehuda. So it just says descendants of David HaMelech. Who exactly they were, it doesn't say. It just says descendants of David HaMelech, who was from the tribe of Yehuda. B'chamisha b'Av, on the 5th day of the month of Av, B'nei Farish ben Yehuda, descendants of Parish, again of Yehuda, descendant of Yehuda. B'Shiva B'ai, on the 7th day, B'nei Yonadav ben Rechav, the descendants of a man named Yonadav, who was a descendant of Rechav. Here on the bottom, they say that who was Rechav? Yisrael, the father-in-law of Moshe. So that means that these were descendants of Yisrael. Of Basarabai, on the 10th of Av, right? Yeah, on the 10th of Av, B'nei Snah ben Binyamin, descendants of Snah, descendant of Binyamin. B'chamisha Sarbai, on the 15th day. Okay, discuss a little bit more discussion. B'nei Zatu ben Yehuda, descendants of Zatu, descendants of Yehuda. V'imohem, and together with them, bringing wood, were Kohanim and Leviim, V'chomi Shata b'Shifta, and anyone who was mistaken or didn't know which tribe he actually descended from. What that means is, the way they explained it here from the Meiri in the notes, there were Jews who knew that their families had a custom of donating wood to the Beis HaMikdash, but they could not trace their lineage to any one of the families listed here. It says they didn't know their tribe. I guess they didn't know their tribe. They weren't able to trace themselves to any one of the families listed here. And therefore, these people joined the family of Zatu and donated wood along with them. So you've got the descendants of Zatu. You've got these people who don't know exactly. They know that their families brought wood, but they don't have any lineage to any of the established families here. And then it also mentions, we'll finish up the last part, but it says Kohanim and Leviim. Which Kohanim, which Leviim? So apparently, again, there were Kohanim and Leviim who also had some kind of tradition that their families had donated. And we don't exactly say who they were from the Kohanim and Leviim, but there were Kohanim and Leviim had a tradition that their families brought the wood, and they also joined up with Zatu. And the last group mentioned that brought with Zatu was B'nai Goinvei Eli, B'nai Kaitse Katzias. Literally means descendants of pestle thieves. Okay? And descendants of dried fig cutters. Now, what does that mean? Apparently, that was not really their name, right? They were referred to as that. But they're explained here like this. This is brought down in the notes from the Bartanura. The pestle thieves and the dried fig cutters were actually one family that was given these names because of heroic deeds they had performed. You know, if you'd meet these people, some people would say, oh, you're from the pestle thieves. Other would say, oh, you're from the dry fig cutters. At one time, enemy forces decreed that Jews may not bring bikurim, the first fruits, to the Beis HaMikdash, and they posted guards on the roads to stop them. The family hid their bikurim under some dried figs, and they carried a large pestle on their shoulders. A pestle is the thing that you chop something in a mortar. When they were stopped by guards, they said that they were going to use the pestle to pound the dried figs in large mortars that were nearby. Because they used a pestle to steal hearts, i.e. to deceive, they were called pestle thieves. They were also called the family of dried fig cutters, after the name given to the type of knife used to cut cakes of pressed figs. So it was one family that they referred to either one way or the other because of what they had done to make sure to be able to bring bikurim to the Beis HaMikdash. Now, here's another thing brought down by the Bartanura that this family did, but apparently they didn't necessarily, carry a name for it. At another time, enemy forces tried to prevent Jews from bringing wood to the Beis HaMikdash. The same family made ladders out of the wood they wanted to bring. When they were stopped, they said that they were going to use the ladders to take doves from dovecots that were nearby. Once they passed the guards, they took the ladders apart and brought the wood to the Beis HaMikdash. So that is what this family did. And yeah, it doesn't say that they had a name. Oh yeah, actually, even though they don't bring it down here in the notes, the Bartanura says they were also called B'nai Salmai Hanutzoi, the ones who took apart ladders. Okay, but this was one family that did all these things. So the groups listed here joined the family of Zatu because their family was relatively small. So therefore, basically, everybody else joined. Everybody else who didn't, all these other groups joined up with them. All right. So that we're up. That was on the 15th of Av. The Esrim boy on the 20th of Av. B'nai Fachas Moyav ben Yehuda, descendants of a person named Pachas Moyav, descendant of Yehuda. Be'esrim be'elo, on the 20th of Elo, B'nai Adin ben Yehuda, descendants of Adin ben Yehuda. Okay. Now, be'echad be'teves, on the 1st of Teves, Shava b'nai Farish Shniya, descendants of Farish came back a second time. B'nai Farish ben Yehuda were mentioned before by the 5th of Av. So they actually gave twice, on the 5th of Av and on the 1st of Teves. And they explain, and this is explained the following way. Why do they do it a second time? The first time each family brought wood, there was enough to last until the next family brought a new quantity. Again, the first time each family brought wood, there was enough to last until the next family brought a new quantity. The donation brought on the 20th of Elul by the family of Adin lasted until the 1st of Teves. That was a big donation. At that time, no other family came forward to donate wood. Lots were cast among those who had already donated, and the family of Parish was selected to donate wood that would last until the 1st of Nisan, when the cycle repeated itself. So therefore, they landed up bringing a second time. And now the Mishnah goes back, and the Mishnah is now going back to something we discussed before, on days where we don't say the Mamadis, and we just mentioned the 1st of Teves. So here the Mishnah mentions the Echa b'Teves lo'haya b'Maimed. On the 1st of Teves, there was no Maimed by any of the tefillas, by any of the prayers that usually were accompanied by Mamadis. On the 1st of Teves, there were no Mamadis at all. Why? Shahaya by Hallel, because it had Hallel, and we know Hallel pushes off for Musaf, and Hallel pushes off. Hallel pushes off for Shachris, the carbon Musaf. It also had a carbon Musaf, and carbon musaf, we know, pushes off musaf and mincha. The carbon eitzim, and also the carbon eitzim, which pushes off, mincha nila. So it came out that on that day there was no mamadus at all, because eat that day had all the reasons to push off the mamadus. Now the question is, there's another Rish Chodesh that was mentioned also, and that was the very first one of the 9 dates was Be'echad B'Nisan, and the first of Nisan. We don't mention the first of Nisan; we only mention the first of Tevis, that it didn't have any mamadus. The answer is because the first of Tevis is not only Rish Chodesh, but it's also Chanukah. And because it's Chanukah, the halal of Chanukah, which is an obligation, we know pushes off mamadus. But Rish Chodesh Nisan, the halal we say Rish Chodesh Nisan is not an obligation. It's Rish Chodesh halal. That's a minig. That's a custom. We already mentioned before that doesn't push off mamadus. So therefore, the only Rish Chodesh that had no mamadus at all, because of halal musaf and the carbon eitzim, was the Echad B'Tevis, the first of Tevis. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.